Hey everyone, this is Dylan, and today I'll be doing a movie review for you guys. So the movie I'm reviewing today is Halloween Kills. And I just first want to start off by saying that this will be completely spoiler free. I know this movie just came out and I want to make sure that I don't spoil anything for any of you. So now let's get into the synopsis. So this movie picks up right where the 2018 Halloween left off, with Laurie Strode's house on fire and Michael Myers trapped in the basement bunker thing. And we find out that Michael escapes and the Strode family is at the hospital. Since the Strode family is now tied up at the hospital, the townspeople in Haddonfield are on the hunt for Michael Myers. That's primarily the synopsis. So let's get into some of the nitty gritty. My biggest issue with this movie is that it's doing way too much. There's at least 5 different plot lines that are going on simultaneously throughout this movie, and we are getting flashbacks to the 1978 movie, and it's just doing way too much. And the issue is that some of these plot lines are interesting and some of them are not interesting. And it really gets to this point where we're wanting to go back to the interesting plot lines and we have to sit through the uninteresting, boring plot lines in order to get there, and that just makes half of this movie not good because we aren't invested in this. Like, there's several of these plot lines that could have been cut altogether and then it would have been fine, and they just chose to have it in there, and I don't necessarily know for what reason, other than to increase Michael Myers' body count, but I would have preferred if they weren't there. So, speaking of Michael Myers, let's talk about Michael Myers in this movie. I think that the new mask design looks really good. It's like half burnt, he's got like a cut on his face, and I think that it's a really cool mask design. I also had this kind of realization while watching this. I haven't watched a Halloween movie in a while. I watched the 2018 one recently so I could prepare for this new movie, but I haven't watched any of the original franchise in quite a while. But I noticed during this movie how kind of creepy and menacing the Michael Myers mask is. I mean, when we have Freddy is a face of makeup, so he can move and he can express himself. Jason has a mask on, but the mask isn't necessarily a humanistic mask. We don't really have the human face in there, so it's not as menacing. But this is a human face that should have expression, and we're really not getting any kind of expression from this mask, so it just kind of makes it even more creepy. I noticed that I thought that this Michael Myers was more creepy because of this static face mask that he has, rather than something like Freddy, which in the first movie was creepy, but he has more emotion and can emote more with the mask makeup that he has. And ultimately, coming down to this new trilogy with Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills, and probably Halloween Ends, the main thing is exploring the trauma that the town and Laurie Strode is feeling. And I think that that's an interesting thing, but I think that they don't go far enough in explaining the trauma that has happened. I do think that it is interesting that we have Laurie Strode. We have 3 of the other survivors of the original movie. We've got Tommy Doyle, we've got Lindsay Wallace, and we have Marion Chambers, who are all survivors of Michael Myers from the first movie, but we see how they've all handled their trauma from that differently. I do think that that's an interesting idea, and this didn't really come into perspective for me until I listened to an audiobook of The Final Girl Support Group, which is by Grady Hendrix, and it kind of really gave me a better insight into how trauma affects people, because that movie is all about these support groups for final girls and how each one of them has handled their trauma differently. And I think that that kind of puts it in better perspective of the first movie and how Laurie Strode has handled her trauma. Because that was one of the issues I had with the first movie, was that I thought that there was nothing in that 1978 movie that made me think that Laurie Strode would turn out to be what she was in the 2018 movie. I just didn't see that, but now I have a little bit better of an understanding of how that trauma affects different people different ways. And I was also kind of comparing it to something like H2O, where Laurie Strode seemed like she was well adjusted and didn't have all those super psychological trauma issues and PTSD because of what happened to her in the original movie. So I thought that that was definitely an interesting thing, but I think that it didn't go far enough in exploring the trauma that all of these people had and how they handled it differently. I also was really disappointed when I saw that the Strode women were basically sidelined in this movie. Like, we don't get any of the granddaughter hardly at all, and Karen and Laurie are stuck at the hospital, and we get some like nice moments with Karen, but those moments end up not amounting to anything. Like, there's no any other repercussions that this has in this movie. Like, I just don't understand why it needed to be there. And Laurie she like has surgery that night to, I guess, fix the internal bleeding that's in her, and then an hour later she's up and trying to hunt down Michael Myers. Like, that didn't seem really plausible or realistic. But ultimately I do really wish that we got more of them. Then we have our other survivors, the Tommy Doyle, the Lindsay Wallace, and the Marion Chambers, and I think that it's a lot of nostalgia baiting the people who are fans of the original series, and particularly that original movie. I think a lot of them are there for specific reasons, and ultimately their entire storylines end up going nowhere. We don't really get anything crazy that happens with them, and I think that that was disappointing as well. I will say that I do think that the kills are really brutal and really gory, and I do appreciate that. That is what a lot of the people who watch horror movies really like, and especially their target demographic of teenage boys will love this movie for that. But when we look at it in a more critical light, I think that it is interesting, but also there's like things that Michael Myers does that I don't know if I think are warranted or needed. Like, I don't know why he would be doing things like that. There's one scene where he just keeps stabbing different knives into this guy's back, and it's like, I don't know why Michael Myers would be doing something like that, because it doesn't really fit his like MO. He's like a one stab and done. He doesn't like overkill people. So I think that that is kind of weird, and I'm not sure how I like that Michael Myers in this movie. So I want to end this review on final thoughts, which, I mean, I thought that this movie was okay. It was a little bit worse than the 2018 movie in my opinion, and I don't know, I think that it's definitely a filler movie, that's for sure. It's just here to get some kills in, and we'll see how it ends in Halloween Ends. I do want to make a prediction, which I don't know how true this will be, but I think that Laurie Strode will die in Halloween Ends, and that's because she even mentions in this movie that she has to die for Michael to die. So I think that we're gonna get a Laurie Strode, Michael Myers showdown where they both die. And it'll be interesting to see if that actually happens. I think that that's where it's leading to, but I guess we'll find out next year when Halloween Ends premieres. And, you know, I want to end on my rating of this movie. I gave the 2018 movie a 3.5 stars. I give this one a 3 stars. I think that it's okay, but it's just not doing anything crazy, and it's definitely not as good as the 2018 Halloween. So that is it for this review. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of Halloween Kills and whether you liked it or you didn't like it and why. And remember, if you're not already subscribed and you'd like to be, please hit that subscribe button down below and give this video a like if you liked it. Thank you guys for watching and have a great day. Bye.